Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. Today I'm joined with another Magic Talk with Toad. Say hello, Toad.
Hello.
We are also joined with a special guest. Introduce yourself.
Hey, what's up? I am Everett. I'm a member of the Value Vintage team, one of the admins in the Discord, and I've been playing Value Vintage for close to 10 years now.
Holy cow, there are people younger than that.
Debatable.
You are just an old person, Toad. But anyway, so today is one of our more special videos because we have a special guest. So, about a month or so ago, a little bit longer, we had a video about the intro to Value Vintage, which I will include now. And then a few weeks ago, we had a video about how to brew Value Vintage, which I will include now. And we had Foster join us, and Foster is a Value Vintage mainstay, goes to a lot of their events, is around a lot. He's a member of the community, great guy. And how to brew, we had Doot, who is legendary Value Vintage brewer, fun character. Like, it's our most well received episode, over 300 views, which, hooray! Thank you, everyone. And today we wanted to do another video about probably the most important thing with Value Vintage, and that's how to actually play it. Not in the sense of, oh, you can play it on Cockatrice, or you can play it on MTGO, or you can play it at your local game store if they run Value Vintage. Less how to literally play it, and more like the ethos and like philosophy behind like playing Value Vintage. And so we are joined by Everett, who is the Value Vintage guy, along with what was the other guy's name?
Russell?
What?
Russell?
Russell, yes. And so
Oh, I mean, there's a bunch of.
there's a bunch of people, yeah, but like the two people that have been around for like 10 years.
For the old heads is myself and Doug.
Thank you. So, yeah, we want to talk about that. So I have three of Toad and I's decks pulled up, just so that we can explain through the lens of our decks how we go about doing it, and then we can just generally talk about like how to play the game. Like, we know how to get into it, we know how to brew for it, but what about once you're like in the game? So yeah, with that, what are some basic things we should know, Everett?
I think it's definitely good to know going into your first event, kind of the overall metagame in terms of like what some of the better decks are, what some like up and coming brews that people locally are playing, that people online have been playing, specifically certain points of interaction that those decks might be playing, the kinds of counterspell suites that people are playing, the types of hand disruption that people are playing, the targeted removal, the sideboard pieces that you should expect, all that good stuff.
Hell yeah! And you recently just helped run a tournament, which is super cool. And I'm sure the standings for that are pretty cool. And I try to keep up with most of the standings. But what are some basic stuff people should look out for? Like, not the most meta decks, but decks that are played the most often. Or what are like some cards and such people like play the most often? Like, what are like the things to keep an eye out on? And like,
For sure. I mean, the thing that I always recommend to people, not even so much for Value Vintage, but just so like kind of in Magic in general, is to know what your deck loses to first and foremost.
yeah,
Like most combo decks aren't really going to care about your opponent's board wipes or spot removal, and a lot of like mid-range or aggro decks are going to care a lot less about your opponent's stacks pieces or your opponent's hand attack. So going into your events with the knowledge of what types of things to look out for is going to make it a lot easier to know about what specific things to look out for. So with powerful decks like Cascade Rhinos or Boros Energy or High Tide or Bant Wreck, kind of all over the archetype space, knowing what specifically those decks are bringing to the table to beat you is going to be the most important thing for you to know.
Yeah. So using that in regards to the list I have pulled up, I have 3 of Toad's list, which will have the deck list. 3 of Toad and I's list, which will have the deck list in the description below, like we do for all our videos. I have Pure Energy, which is mostly my deck, but like Toad helped, like Toad gave the bones for it, and I've like tinkered it into a well-oiled machine. That's done pretty well. Hasn't fully won an event, but has like definitely put a lot of pressure in. But though the sideboard is what I've been tinkering with the most. And then we have the Scientist, our Shark Post list, which has 3-0'd a lot of events, at least locally. And like sure, it's been past iterations, but the current iteration nearly 3-0'd an event 2 weeks ago. So it's not very recent, but recent enough. And then we have Toad's Yojimbo Stax list, which, whilst a bit over budget, or wait, it's under budget right now. I need to refresh the page.
It's exactly $30 right now.
Maybe.
I had to refresh the page, but $30 exact. Toad, have you won any events with Yojimbo?
I've 3-0'd with this deck twice.
Nice. But Yojimbo is also like a value vintage brainchild. Like it is Toad's brews distilled into pure sadism.
This is kind of what I love about the format as a whole, is these kinds of decks that are just truly children of mental illness. Like this is not a pile of 75 cards that will exist in any other format.
You cannot do this anywhere else.
You succeed, man.
Yeah. So all Yojimbo is like the brewer's favorite. The Scientist is the most proven one, and Pure Energy is like my baby. But like Pure Energy has a really cool primer, which I've been working on, and I was working on it today, which I was going over. A little bit earlier, and there's the primer for it. Did I not save it?
Uh-oh.
Whoopsie. I was pretty sure I saved it. That's weird. Let me.
I see the primer.
Yeah.
Let me save it.
Let me open up a new tab. Anyway, the primer, which usually would work. Oh, damn, it's not saved. Well, that sucks.
I see the primer. It's right here.
Yeah, the primer.
I don't know what you're seeing.
The primer should have like a whole extra chapter saved into it.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, that's a bummer. I'll have to type that up again. But anyway, it still has most of a primer. Just a few hours gone. Oh well. It happens.
The AD demons strike again.
So I do not write primers in the actual Moxfield primer section.
Yeah, but it's the best for marketing purposes.
You write them somewhere else and then you paste them. But let's move on. This is not a video about primers.
We'll move on. Anyway, so
although maybe we should at some point make a video about primers.
We could. But anyway, so we have 3 lists. We have Pure Energy, the Scientist, and Yojimbo Stax. And so these are all 3 decks which are prepared to deal with the meta in certain ways. So Pure Energy is a mid-range list. The Scientist is kind of a control. It is a control list, and Yojimbo Stax is a control list. Like it's literally playing stacks.
I built Yojimbo because people both in our local meta and online to a degree don't like playing creature removal, and they especially don't like playing main deck artifact and enchantment removal.
Yeah.
And so I'm just gonna punish them for not having that.
So, back to what Everett was saying, each of these decks are prepared to deal with the meta as a whole in their own unique ways. Some of it's in the sideboard, and some of it's in the main deck. So, that's just kind of something to keep in mind. So, for pure energy, looking at that, I have Galvanic Discharge, I have Lightning Bolt. I'll be the stupid Final Fantasy Lightning Bolt, but still Lightning Bolt. Those are deal with creatures where the deck is weak to. I have counter spells, which is good for more intensive stuff. Or I have Loose Focus as a counter spell, but still. And then I have Synth Eradicator, which can act as a Lightning Bolt. And that's just kind of the mid-range package. And then the rest of it is just trying to move in between them and move through decks which are not preparing for it. Like Vexing Bauble is a main board piece. This is a deck that aims to move between. The Scientist is a deck that aims to control the board, and nobody plays artifact removal or artifact hate. So we use that to our advantage, because if the meta is no one's playing Guild of Artifacts, most of our mana base is in the artifacts. And they will stay around. No one can do anything with them. So if we're playing stuff, we don't have we have 4 Loose Focus and 4 Swords to Plowshares in the list, which, great removal, great spot stuff. But what matters most for us is we can get out the Pridewind or Shorekai or Batterskull with Tinker, or just playing it, hard casting it. Though Tinker's ideal.
Yeah.
And all 3 of those get around stuff.
If the opponent ever resolves an energy flux, this deck just dies. And yet somehow we've been both playing this deck for 7 months, and it's never happened once. Because people
register more energy fluxes, man. I think that card's really.
People are just they're greedy. They don't run it. Just Meltdown and Bifrost are good, but those are a one-shot effect. So you kill 2 border posts and a Batterskull or whatever, and then the game just goes on and we rebuild. Energy Flux is okay, I guess the game's just over. We're done here.
But Energy Flux and Faithful History is also a card that people are not registering like they used to. That card is insane.
It's I've been trying Pest Infestation in that slot also, and people just don't have anything like that. People are getting really greedy about the artifact stuff, which seems wild to me when Affinity is a very real part of the meta.
Affinity is definitely a deck that you have to respect.
I have seen Energy Flux twice. Once of which Toad was playing, which is to be expected, because Toad knows the bullshit. And once
I pay my taxes on sideboards.
Yeah. And once in a local game about 2 weeks ago, where the opponent had 2 of them in their sideboard, just against Affinity, and they made the mistake of saying, "Oh, I'm sideboarding in Energy Flux," which, thanks for telling me.
Never tell them.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay. So I just held on to a counterspell the entire game. I played slow, I played procedural, and they played Energy Flux. I countered it, and they couldn't draw the next one. I won. And then
Nope. Never give away the game. That's a part of how to play the format. Never tell your opponent what you're sideboarding until the match is over.
They won the first match, I won the second one, and the third one I only lost due to both players misreading a card, which is not a big deal. It happens.
Yeah.
And then Yojimbo Stax has Yojimbo, which stops aggro decks. And
Yojimbo stops everything except spell-based combo like High Tide. He just stops everything.
Yeah. This list is oppressive as hell.
I love anything that is looking to cast and activate an icy manipulator, personally.
Yeah, like I started this list with Scepter of Dominance, which is like the 3-mana white icy manipulator. And then
I'm familiar.
yeah, we've been playtesting it, and I'm like talking with Dude, and we're like, is this like is Icy Manipulator just better because it can tap Breaker of Creation and Turok? And so now we're just on Icy Manipulator, which is like a 9-cent card.
Yeah, so you gotta know what to play against, which is great. So each of these decks have their strengths and weaknesses. So like you kind of have to prepare for what you're going to lose against, both in the main and the sideboard. Which we can go over the sideboard in a little bit. But like you have to know your deck, which with Value Vintage is a bit of a challenge because some of the decks are a little bit weird. They play mechanics, which they play cards and mechanics, which are banned in most other formats, or if they're not banned in most other formats, they're like heavily restricted for a good reason.
Or entirely
A lot of the stuff you're doing in this format is using cards in ways that are not immediately obvious. So you're reading the ability on the card, and it says you do X, but what you actually are trying to do with it is Y. You're trying to use Shuko not to give a creature an increased power, but to draw your deck. And like, draw your deck does not appear anywhere on that card, but when you know what you're doing with a Nadu Shuko deck, you know exactly how to use it to do that.
And this is the only format where you can do not Oshuko stuff anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you can do it in Cube, I guess.
You can technically do it in Vintage if you're sicko.
Yeah.
Actually, this is Vintage.
Yeah, technically. I mean, people do get paired into actual Vintage decks constantly on MTGO.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if you're playing in this format, you need to pick a deck. I would say pick 2 or 3 decks and try and learn how they work. Not just like I can cast Violent Outburst and it makes some rhinos, but like try and learn I can cast Violent Outburst and it makes some rhinos, and then the next 3 turns are going to look like this against this deck, and the next 3 turns are going to look like this against some other deck. And if you do that, if you learn 2 decks against an expected meta of like 4 decks, it's going to take some time, but you're going to unlock a very good understanding of a lot of what's going on in the format. And you're going to be able to play better against decks that you haven't seen before, which, let's be honest, you will run into decks you haven't seen before in this format. It is a large part of it.
Yeah, we mentioned it before in our past 2 intro videos, or more or less. But like the Value Vintage meta, there are decks that could be considered the best decks or top tier decks, but the meta is so wide open and so diverse, not just in like the meta as a whole, but like different states have different metas. Different online communities have different metas. Like the Value Vintage Discord, which we'll have linked in the thing below, has so many channels. Almost an overwhelming amount of channels that are like different decks, different brewing. Something's always news happening. And like, is like the next big thing being made every day? No. But the next big thing may be happening every week.
Yeah, I would say that a brand new, never before seen deck every week that is an actual contender is probably about right.
Yeah, I mean, there's just such a large community of talented Magic players and talented brewers and it just keeps growing more and more every day as more and more people join. And getting all of those fresh perspectives from people with different Magic backgrounds and different knowledges means that we're getting closer and closer to some really strong meta contender decks that are super unique to the format.
Yeah, we have people who are coming in and they're bringing modern decks. We have people who are bringing pauper decks. We have people who are bringing standard decks, and then they're tweaking those decks. But they're also bringing the philosophy of those formats. And sometimes the philosophy just doesn't line up with how things go here. But a lot of the time, people can just apply philosophy of a modern list or a legacy list or even a pauper list and pilot a deck to do a similar thing in this format in a way that somebody who's been playing for a long time might not have thought about before.
Like, the Scientist, for example, is a list that was based off a janky Pioneer list that Toad and I made. And it still follows a lot of those Pioneer principles, just like way souped up.
Yeah, it's a Pioneer deck that gets to play Tinker and Shorikai in balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really nice way to be able to evolve archetypes as well. Like I kind of delving deep into the Value Vintage High Tide deck back when all those cards got reprinted in Dominaria Remastered a while back. I was coming from a Legacy High Tide background and from a like 2017 era Value Vintage background. So I kind of had a mindset of how this deck was supposed to go and the engines that it should be playing and this and that. And then we had some players from the Penny Dreadful community come in and point out some really cool things like looping Bond of Insight with cards like Loot Tree and doing cool stuff with that. And with our powers combined, we've been able to evolve this archetype over the past couple of years and make it into an absolute monster. And just the having that kind of melting pot of backgrounds and skill sets makes evolving these decks and finding these specific interaction pieces that are perfect for a format that make up the bulk of these archetypes a lot smoother and a lot more interesting.
Yeah. And like that's great. Like, so we've kind of gone over like what to expect in the meta, and then kind of the meta itself and how it evolves and like how to approach it. Uh, so like that's like great stuff to know. But another thing to think about is like knowing your opening hand and knowing your lines, which we mentioned knowing about the deck, but not just do you need to know your lines. You kind of need to be able to have a like not a limited player's perspective, but kind of a limited player's perspective on like what your opponent's doing and like how to approach that, because like we've been saying, there's a lot of wild stuff and a lot of wild approaches from a lot of wild formats into this format, and this is one of the most diverse formats in Magic, like ever, other than Commander. But Commander's kind of stupid. Sorry.
I mean, I don't even know that I would say Commander is that diverse. Like, if you can look at a lot of different commanders and people will be playing different commanders, but the more you want your deck to be good, the more it gets homogenized. And unless you're playing budget commander, which is a great format, I love $150 budget commander. But if you're just play whatever you want out of the card pool commander, and you get up like on that line between bracket 3 and bracket 4, a lot of decks are going to start to look like the same 60, 70 cards within a couple thrown in for whatever your strategy is. And that is a thing that happens in Modern and Legacy as well, but it's not really a thing that happens here because decks have to choose how they spend their money. Like, you can't just play the best cards in your colors because they might not be doing what your deck wants to do and you just can't afford the extra budget.
Yeah.
All that being said, the actual like deck lists and archetypes that make up the majority of the metagame are super diverse, but a lot of the support pieces have a lot of crossover. Like for instance, two of the decks that you guys are looking at today, this Pure Energy List and the Scientist, both these decks are playing Lose Focus as kind of one of the premier counter spells of the format, an interaction piece that you should always have in mind, that alongside with actual factual counterspell to a little bit of a lesser degree, with that card being around $1. But cards like Lose Focus and Swordstep Plowshares should always be on your mind coming from the control decks. Cards like Inquisition of Kozilek or Cabal Therapy or Hymn to Torah coming from your black decks. And just in general, either your deck or your opponent's deck will likely be looking to either win the game or keep your opponent from losing the game around turn 3.
Yep. I think a lot of decks, the interaction that they choose to run is going to look very similar across the format. And then the win conditions are going to look very different across each deck.
For sure.
So if you know how the opponent is winning, you probably have access to ways to stop them, because the sideboard cards and the main deck interaction cards in this format tend to be fairly broad. Like, you see a lot more spell pierces than you do dispels or envelops or similar. You see a lot more duress than you do specific, like, target opponent discards an artifact.
A personal favorite.
Yeah. But, and the thing you have to keep in mind is, I'm trying to stop them from winning. They're trying to stop me from winning. How does all of this interplay happen? What does me winning through their disruption look like, and how do I play towards that?
Yeah. And then the other thing that's interesting about Value Vintage that you should be playing for is this is vintage. It's value vintage, but it's vintage. So, like, whilst every white deck is different, other than, like, if you like net deck, which is fine, we encourage it. Like, almost every white deck is playing Balance, which is a broken, fucked up card.
Well, the control ones are. The aggro ones sometimes are not.
Yeah, I wouldn't be putting Balance in most of my aggro decks.
But, like, you can say something like Soul Ring. Most decks in this format, not all of them, because it is $1 and change, but most decks in this format that can use the colorless mana are going to have a Soul Ring. You're going to be playing against cards that are banned in other formats, that are restricted in Vintage. And those cards are going to be alongside cards that might not have been good enough for Standard when they were in Standard. And so you're going to see combinations of cards and lines of play that may be unfamiliar from other formats.
So with that information in mind, what should, like, hands look like? We can go off of one of the decks we have pulled up, or we can just, like, talk about hands in general. And, like, it's meta dependent, but, like, going in blind, like, what are some things we should look for when playing hands?
So I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but for the most part, you should be looking to do something substantial around turn 3, whether that's winning the game or shutting your opponent down, or just kind of making that the defining turning point of the game. There should be something substantial going on. Now, how we get there, that's going to depend from deck to deck.
Yeah, like, if I'm a pure aggro deck or a pure combo deck, I want to, if not win the game on turn 3, at least be presenting a win the next time I untap. So, like, maybe it's turn 3 and I attack and my opponent is now at 4 life and the game is not over, but I have a Fire Blast and a Lightning Bolt and a Lava Dart in my hand, so the game is probably over if they don't kill me first. Or if you're playing a combo deck and it's turn 3 and you're passing the turn, but then you're also Giga Drowsing all of your opponent's mana and their upkeep so that you can untap and make your 4th land drop and go off. That's also the kind of thing that I would be looking to do with my opening hand. I don't want an opening hand in this format that's just like 4 lands and 2 cantrips and a Spell Pierce or something like that. That's just not going to do anything relevant 99% of the time.
Yeah. And, like, most of our deck tech videos, we go over, like, hands we should and shouldn't keep. So if you've been watching, you can kind of see where we go from that. And, like, in our past 2 gameplay videos, like, I've been going off mic and, like, talking about my hands, whether I should keep them. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. I'm not the greatest player. I am very interested. I'm very curious. I'm not the best player. That's what Toad and Everett are here for.
So I would say if you are round one of a tournament, so like let's say it's a small tournament like an F&M or something where people could just be playing whatever, round one, game one, going in blind, I want my opening hand to be proactive. So even if I'm playing a control deck like Yojimbo, I want my opening hand to be doing something to get onto the board, to start interacting with the opponent. I don't just want a bunch of lands and swords to plowshares and razor grass ambushes and balance and stuff, because if the opponent is not playing stuff that is answered by those cards, then my hand is mostly blanks. And it's much easier to do this when you're the combo deck or you're the aggro deck, but it's something to be aware of when you're also playing the control deck. Like if you're playing the scientist and you're going blind into a matchup, then things like Chromo Seed Shark and Monastery Mentor and Tanker are very important to have in your opening hand, because you don't know which of your interaction pieces are going to be the strongest. Like maybe Narset is a really strong play on turn 3, but maybe also Narset on turn 3 does nothing.
So, for example, I have the scientist pulled up right now, and I was going through some hands on Yojimbo a few seconds ago. Like, I have a hand pulled up on the scientist. It's a pretty solid hand. Not perfect, but it's solid. Where it's 2 lands, a Monster Mentor, a Board Wipe, Loose Focus, Tezzeret, and Border Post. Tezzeret's not great, but we have a turn 2 Loose Focus, turn 3 Mentor, Shatter the Sky if we happen to need it, which is whatever, and Tezzeret, which can slowly go out of hand.
I'd keep this hand all day.
Yeah, you want to be able to stop something your opponent is doing. So we've got the Lose Focus, we've got the Shatter the Sky, and then we also want the opponent to have to stop what we're doing. So we have a Monastery Mentor, and then we have a Tezzeret. And then we've got the mana to cast our spells. So like we are presenting a proactive game plan. If that's not going to work out, we at least have some defensive stuff we can do. We're not just dead to anything. And if the opponent, like let's say the opponent mulligans to 5 and has to keep a rough hand, we can pressure them very hard with Monastery and then Tezzeret making a 4/4 with our Border Post.
And we've just run a Loose Focus on the Arkham's Astrolabe, which, like, fantastic.
Yeah, like we're just going. Like we're presenting interaction early, and then we're presenting threats in the mid game. And if the opponent doesn't answer both of our threats, then they both snowball value across the course of a couple turns. Like if we get to untap with Monastery Mentor with a Lose Focus in our hand, you're 90% of the way there.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the big things for me, especially going into a blind matchup, like a round 1, game 1 kind of deal, is keeping a hand that's more than anything flexible, more so than proactive. Because especially in round 1, where you could be paired against anybody in the room, you really have no way of knowing what you're supposed to be dealing with. And figuring out as that game 1 goes on what your opponent's doing is a skill that needs to be developed for any format, but is a very important one to do. Like if you're sitting down with that hand that we were looking at, and your opponent goes turn 1, or you play turn 1 land go, and your opponent says turn 1 island preordain. Well, this could be like blue-red, like mid-range deck. This could be a blue-white control deck. This could be high tide. This could be a lot of things. But then if your opponent goes turn 2 island go, this is probably high tide. And be able to move your hand around and adapt your game plan to a combo matchup versus a mid-range matchup versus an aggro matchup is a super important ability to have. Like, not that I'm saying that you shouldn't keep a hand that's like 4 lands, counterspell, Swords to Plowshares, Monastery Mentor. You should probably keep that hand. But being able to take these cards that are usually like pretty medium in some matchups and look at them and say, what can I be doing with this in this situation? What can I do to make this advantageous for me?
Or you can be kind of greedy like this hand is. This hand gets a turn 2 Blaster Hulk on the board, which is very funny and can potentially win the game.
Yeah, so like both of those, like the flexible hand and then the proactive hand, both have merits and they're both going to perform well, but sometimes the deck you're playing needs one and sometimes the deck you're playing needs the other. Like, let's just give the most extreme example. If I'm playing Channel Mirror, I'm not looking for a hand with interaction for what my opponent's doing.
Yeah.
Not game one. Whereas if I'm playing blue-white control, I might be keeping a hand that's just all interaction. And I will eventually find a way to win the game when I feel like it.
For the most part, yeah. There is definitely an argument to be made that if you're sitting down across from like a control opponent while playing Channel Mirror, and you're looking at a hand that's like playing a turn 2 or a turn 3 Shardless Agent on the draw, it might be correct to just ship it and look for a hand that has Mystical Dispute or Ricochet Trap or something in it. Just being able to kind of play around the general adage is in post board games, don't board against your opponent's game 1 deck, board against your opponent's post board deck.
Yeah, I just meant like if you're round one game one on Channel Mirror, I don't care what my opponent is playing.
Sure.
I'm gonna do my thing and then we'll see what happens. Whereas, yeah, absolutely. After you sideboard, when you have brought in cards that now make what the opponent's doing either important or beatable for you, then you absolutely want to care about, do I have a way to stop a counter spell? Do I have a way to stop a Pithing Needle or a Sorcerer's Spyglass or a Soul Guide Lantern? Like, depending on what combo we're going for, can I beat their thing that they think beats me?
So that
and unfortunately, sometimes the speed of a deck like Channel Mirror, like going off turn 1, game 1 on the play, you just don't know what your opponent's up to. You might not know how to properly sideboard against.
I have played against rhinos where they turn 1 land double spirit guide Shardless Agent rhinos me, and I just looked at my hand, which was like a decent hand, but did not have an answer to rhinos before turn 3, and I was just like, I'm drawing my card and I'm scooping before I play any permanents, so good luck sideboarding.
Yeah.
So sometimes part of knowing how to play your deck is knowing when to just give up.
Yeah.
Not all games are winnable, and if you are playing a game past the point that it is winnable, it can cost you future games. This is a mistake I see people make a lot in formats, but especially in this one because the board states can be so complex. If you can't win the game, you're just showing your opponent cards for free.
Yeah. And, like, even if you sideboard, they still know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Which was a lot of what I was writing in the primer that got deleted, which sucks. But it's... like, on the sideboard in each of these isn't necessarily... some of it is a sideboard for what to do. Like, going off of that and, like, kind of segueing into sideboards. Like, this is a sideboard-heavy format. Like, Pauper has sideboards that are important, Modern has sideboards that are important, but this one more than ever has sideboards that are really important. And, like, you need a sideboard for what they're sideboarding in for. So, like, you need to know what they saw from you, and you need to know what you saw from them and what they're bringing in, what you're bringing in. Which
I see people all the time who are building a deck, or maybe they have a deck that they've been playing and it goes a little bit over budget, and they just trim down to like a 3-card sideboard to make budget. And if you're playing a pure combo deck, like you are just trying to do your thing and a sideboard is just going to water your deck down, then it's kind of defensible. But I see people who are playing like Sultai mid-range decks, and their sideboard is 2 Spell Pierces and a Duress. And it's like, if you are playing fair Magic, you need your sideboard to be 15 cards in this format.
Sometimes it just ends up working out, though. Like a buddy of mine, local vintage player, Riley, who's been a format vet for a while now, he's famous for registering like 8 sideboard cards and then like 5-0ing events. The man is wild.
don't do that. That's good. Great for Riley, but also
I can't have it.
If you can do it, then I guess do it. But like,
Unfortunately, he's built entirely different.
yeah.
I just as a rule of thumb, I want my sideboard to be about 10% of the cost of the deck. So 250, 350, somewhere in that range. Because you can spend a little bit extra on a card in your main deck that is just a generically good card, or you can spend a little bit extra on a card in your sideboard like Energy Flux that just spikes people. It resolves and the game is over.
Yeah.
And some of these really good sideboard cards are not that expensive. Like Duress is a lot of game against unfair combo decks, and that card is like 7 cents or something.
Yeah.
Cents, baby.
You're telling me you can't find room in your sideboard for 28 cents of Duresses? So you're just playing with a handicap, basically. Like you're giving your opponent an advantage against you if you don't have anything in your sideboard that you can bring in a matchup. And maybe you just expect to not play against certain kinds of decks because our meta at the Dayton store we play at is very creature heavy. Like even the combo decks tend to be creature based. So if we don't have stuff for spell-based combo necessarily, it probably won't come back to bite us. But then if you go 30 minutes away to Cincinnati and you don't have stuff for spell-based combo in your sideboard, you're giving up a round on average every tournament.
Yeah. So like looking at the sideboards in some of our decks, so one common thing is each sideboard has Soul Guide Lantern. The Scientist only has one, but that was mostly just due to a error with a submission I had once. But Soul Guide Lantern now has 2 of them. It's still on budget. And has Test Town, Spell Pierce, Filigree Silex, Damping Sphere, and Commandeer. But these are all prepared for decks that we're going to see in other things. But Soul Guide Lantern is in the Pure Energy list, and it's also in Yojimbo Stax, which means we're expecting to see a lot of graveyard decks. We don't,
yes,
but like we could.
You know what? I do not always play against Dredge, but I have played against Dredge enough that I'm going to pay my sideboard tax and have a way to beat Dredge.
Yeah, and you know what? Sometimes you're boarding against like a spell-based combo deck that uses the graveyard a little bit, and you need to cut your 4th Sword to Plowshares or something, so you just bring in a Soul Guide Lantern because it's more relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if I'm playing Yojimbo against High Tide, then the Soul Guide Lantern is not great, but you know what? It draws me a card.
Yeah.
It can kind of mess with Bond of Insight. It's a lot better than Swords to Plowshares. It's probably a lot better than Good King Mog and Of Herbs and Stewed Rabbit, because that's just not the kind of matchup that it is.
And then the other sideboard card that's common across all 3 lists is Damping Sphere, which is also good against High Tide.
Yep.
Yeah, these kind of like sub 50 cents artifact hate pieces are really popular for obvious reasons. Even like I would put kind of like the Filigree Silex and Vexing Bauble into the same category of these kinds of like multi-deck all-stars that come in against a variety of archetypes, are relatively lenient on your budget, and it can just be absolute game changers.
Yeah.
Sorcerer's Spyglass, 4 cents.
Oh yeah, classic. Used to be 1 cent.
Yeah.
It spiked.
Like, I think if you're going to get into this format and you want to order some cards, but you're not 100% sure on what to order for now, just order all the colorless sideboard cards that you see in a bunch of decks. Because you get like 3 Filigree Silexes, 4 Soul Guide Lantern, 4 Damping Sphere, and 3 Sorcerer's Spyglass. That's the sideboard for every deck you build until you know what you're doing.
Now, depending on what city in the world you live in, that might be easier than some others. I know there was a period of time in Cincinnati where you could not buy ravenous traps at any store in the city.
Yeah.
because we bought
mean,
all of them.
Yeah.
I have bought all of the damping spheres and all of the spell pierces from several of the Dayton stores.
I've bought all the passive
And,
visits, but
like-
that's irrelevant.
Yeah. So, like, sometimes, you know what? You just got to buy cards online. I 100% want to support local stores, but sometimes you just got to order stuff. They don't have it. You got to get it.
Which,
Which, if you're buying cards online, you can absolutely use the Value Vintage ManaPool affiliate link, and we get a little tiny cut of the money that you spend on your order, and all that money goes back into the community and prize support and all that good stuff.
Yeah,
I just use the affiliate link to pick up my cards from Avatar and my playset of Smokestacks. Because Smokestack is a card that you can play in Value Vintage now.
it's a fucked up card, is what it is.
It's just a little guy. Never did nothing to you.
Bullshit! It beat me last week.
Yeah, go watch our video to see Drew losing to Smokestack repeatedly.
Link will be in the top corner now.
So yeah, we've kind of talked about sideboarding and matchups and stuff. One other thing that I did want to visit for this video is there are a couple of consistent ways that you can expect the opponent to try to stop what you're doing. So in this format, you generally see the decks that care about interacting, and even some of the unfair decks after sideboard are going to have hand disruption, counter spells, targeted removal like Swords to Plowshares or Heritage Reclamation or stuff like that. They're probably going to have sweepers if they're a control deck or even a mid-range deck. So you're going to see stuff like Balance and Shatter the Sky and No Witnesses. They might have actual stacks pieces like Thalia or Anointed Peacekeeper. And then I'm starting to see it a lot is decks that are running mana denial. So Boom Bust decks, Balance again, Icy Manipulator, and then we're even seeing some actual like Stone Rain, Ponza type decks get popular. So generally you're not going to see all of that even across the course of an entire tournament, but you should definitely have a plan for what to do if your opponent has some counter spells. You should definitely have a plan for what to do if your opening hand gets a card taken out of it.
Yeah.
So kind of like bounce on that last point about hand disruption to the discussion that we were having earlier about what you might want out of your opening hand. When you're evaluating an opening 7 against a lot of decks, it's good to have in mind, what do I do if my opponent casts an Inquisition Kozilek? What card do they take? How does my plan move on after that happens? You should be thinking about all of this before you even say keep or mull. Before you make any decisions, you should be running through your head, what does this game look like if the worst possible situation happens? If my opponent goes Inquisition, Hymn to Torok, or if my opponent goes Spell Pierce, Counterspell, or if my opponent goes Swords to Plowshares, Counterspell, anything like that, how does this hand shape out, and what do I do to recover from this?
Always assume your opponent has something really zany that they will play against you. Because if they do have it, you've prepared for it. If they don't have it, take advantage of it. It's great.
I
Some
actually...
Some of the best Magic advice I've ever gotten in my life was from an old buddy named Clint, who played Value Vintage way back in the day at the original card shop. Wonderful guy. And his advice was something along the lines of, figure out what you lose to and play around it.
Yeah.
Whatever you are deciding to play, whatever like line you're deciding to take, whatever you're deciding to play around and play through what you lose to. And if you can't do anything about it, don't play around it. Just do what you can.
Yeah. Yep. Make them have it.
If the best you can do to beat a card is hope your opponent doesn't draw it, then just play as if they're not going to draw it. And then I actually, in this format, I like to mulligan pretty conservatively if I'm on the draw and I don't know what my opponent is playing, because if you mulligan down to a perfect 5 and then you get Inquisitioned, you can lose the game on the spot.
Yeah.
Whereas if your opening hand is 3 lands and 4 spells, and maybe they're not the best 4 spells, but the opponent has an Inquisition or a Duress, you're probably still looking at a hand of okay lands and okay spells.
Yeah.
So post sideboard, I will very aggressively mulligan for either how I want to win the game or how I want to stop the opponent. But if I'm playing turn 1, I'm keeping most of my hands that look reasonable, because you don't know what you're playing against, and it's hard to plan for possible failures if you don't know what direction they're going to come from.
But yeah. Anything else you want to say, Everett? Because we still got a little bit of time, but not a whole lot.
Let's see. I mean, the best advice that I can give to anyone like about to delve into their local game stores, Value Vintage F&M, or play in the MTGO events through the Discord or anything like that, is to just give a gander at recent tournament results and see what decks have been performing well, which ones haven't, and try to kind of connect the dots as to why some of these decks are doing well versus why some of these decks aren't doing well. You're going to see a lot of patterns across them in the support pieces, like we were talking about before, kind of the counterspell suites, the removal suites, the hand attack, all that stuff. All of these really powerful cards that have been staples of formats like Modern and Legacy, stuff like Inquisition of Kozilek, which used to be $5 a copy.
Used to be $10 a copy.
Yeah. Kind of these just multi-format all-stars that have gotten outclassed by recent Magic are still strong. And there's a reason why decks that are playing them are winning. And your first goal going into these events should be understanding not just the decks that are winning, but why they're winning, understanding how they work and how whatever deck you're playing is going to beat them, or how gracefully you're going to lose against them, because sometimes matchups are just cursed. But yeah, have a game plan, stick to that game plan, understand your deck, understand your opponents, and just play tight.
And so
I will segue from that to the Discord, because if it sounds overwhelming to learn all the matchups and all the lines for a deck, the good news is you don't have to do it by yourself. There are several thousand people who would love to help you learn how to play a new deck.
Yeah, and
one of the nice things about how wide open the metagame is that you can really succeed in being a deck specialist, kind of like how Old Modern was. So if there's a deck that you see doing well in tournaments and you go, gee, I sure wish I could know more about this deck, chances are there's at least one person who would be absolutely thrilled to yap with you about that deck.
Yeah.
Like
the time you will be able to come in and just talk to the person who designed the deck, and then the person that played it to first place in a 30-person tournament, and they will both walk you through sideboarding and matchups and how the lines work.
Now, there needs to be more written content on how to do it, just like there needs to be more written content on a lot of Magic. But the good news is, we're working on it. Like, I've sorrowfully mentioned a few times, but this pure energy list, I'm writing a very thorough primer about it. Which, again, I'm showing it off other than the missing chapter. I don't know. But the scientist is another list that once I am able to, that one's going to get a full written primer. And on a special thing, which will have been announced already by this point, by the time the video goes out, but there's a Value Vintage website now, which Everett's been working in very hard on. And that Value Vintage website,
the entire team, we put a lot of love and a lot of hours into it.
But on there so far is a burn breakdown, a Hoget's Rooks breakdown, a handful of other videos, a write-up about a Cloud Post League. There's a whole lots of cool stuff. And videos are the most easiest to do, but there are tons of options about how to get started. There's different articles, different tournament results, different upcoming events, and how to contact the team if you're not already on the Discord. And that link will be at the top of the description, other than like the basic video stuff, in the video below, or in the video now. So you should definitely go check it out. And like we mentioned earlier, if you're going to buy cards, Value Vintage is a ManaPool partner. We will include the link in our video. And also we will link the website, and the website has it at the bottom of the page. But yeah, and thinking briefly back into like, you can text you can message the person who's like playing a deck you're interested in. Like Toad and I have gotten messages for like lists that we've had in our videos before, and like whilst we don't play them a ton, like we've made a video about it, explaining our thought process and how we've done it. And like I have not played Lantern in months, but somebody at me about Lantern asking how to plan like deck ideas like a week ago, and like I told him I don't play it a whole lot anymore. I gave it to someone else who's going to do better with it. But here's my thoughts. Here's my ideas, and like here's how to like figure it out. And like Toad and I are like more than glad to answer any questions about any of the decks we've shown today, both in the Discord and on the YouTube comments. Which we'd appreciate a YouTube comment. It helps get more traction. So thanks.
Yeah, the algorithm is not our friend.
But anyway, like if you wanna message us about any of our lists in Discord, we're in the Value Vintage Discord. I'm more of a lurker than active, just because like life stuff. Toad's in there all the time.
I am very frequently on Discord, and I will read messages if people ping me in chat, and I just kind of hang around while I'm doing other stuff in the background.
And if you
kind of the same vein, I'm known as A Balanced Breakfast in the Value Vintage Discord, and if you have made it this far in the video and you like my vibe and want to ask me any questions about the format as a whole or any decks that I'm familiar with or anything like that, my DMs are always open.
Yeah, like we saw you from across the bar and we liked your vibes, and we were wondering if you think that Counterspell is better than Lose Focus in this list.
Ooh. No, that's always a tough question.
And I will link the most recent official Value Vintage video right now. And you can go look in the top corner of the screen and follow it there. And yeah, but that kind of sums up everything we wanted to say. Hopefully this provided kind of a general information. It was a little bit loose. Like we had a loose guide, but we wanted this to be more of a conversation, something approachable, something you can like listen to or watch, and like playing Value Vintage. And I think it went pretty well.
Yeah, today was a little bit more freeform. If you guys in the comments have ideas for videos you'd like to see, let us know. Like, no promises we get to them immediately, but we're definitely open to feedback from the community about what niches need content for them.
Yeah, and we have some other videos down the pipeline. I have 2 projects I'm working on. One sooner or later about the mysterious Soul Ring scale, which is a thing I came up with. And then another one that Toad is privy to but not part of yet. And those will be out too. But if you like this video, like and subscribe. If you don't like this video, also like and subscribe. It helps. Yeah. So if you want to see more Value Vintage content, we are out weekly. Sometimes we have an episode delayed just due to live stuff, but like it happens. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us today, and thank you very much, Everett, for joining us.
For sure.
Yep. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Yeah, gladly. Thank you, and provided some good wisdom.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if I will or won't, but I'm half tempted to make the thumbnail the Dog of Wisdom.
that works for me.
Yeah.
I have no strong opinions.
We'll figure out the thumbnail later, and by this point you'll see what it is. But anyway, Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. We really appreciate it.
The thumbnail is always a mystery to us, and everybody else has already seen it before they started the video.
Yeah. But if like and subscribe, leave a comment. It really helps us out. In the top left corner of the screen, there'll be a special video just for you. You should watch it. It's recommended.
Just for me? It's just for
Just
me?
for you.
Just for you.
Oh, yeah.
And on the
No one, you're not allowed to watch it. This is a video just for me.
Yeah.
and under that
watch
is
Everett's video, everybody.
and under
Don't click
that
that
is
Don't click
under
it.
that's our playlist. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
Bye.